You felt it, didn't you? The sudden urge to scroll past this video, even as your finger hovered over the screen. That hesitation isn't a lack of attention, it is a biological recalibration signal. It is the ego's defense mechanism, what we call archonic interference, activating the precise moment it senses a threat to its constructed reality. The truth appears quietly, so the unready will instinctively ignore it. The ready will pause. Notice the subtle tightening in your chest right now, or perhaps a hollow flutter in your stomach? Your psyche has built-in security guards that patrol the borders of your current identity. When your internal signal encounters a frequency that contradicts your programmed amnesia, your body reacts with a productive irritation. You aren't experiencing generalized anxiety. You are experiencing the violent friction of your soul trying to remember what the system has forced you to forget. We are conditioned to numb this visceral discomfort. We are taught to drown it in endless consumption or mask it with the toxic positivity of the modern world. But if you were finally ready to stop fleeing the phantom signals that dictate your existence, and if you are ready to dismantle the scaffolding of your false identity, then subscribe to this channel and join the awakened. We do not offer comforting illusions here. We provide the surgical tools to strip bare your reality. Now, imagine you were a radio receiver, permanently tuned to a specific station. For years, you have listened to the same broadcast, believing it is the only frequency that exists in the universe. But faintly, bleeding through the static of your daily routine, there is another signal, a phantom frequency. It is an artificial resonance broadcasted across the collective unconscious, designed to continuously wipe your preconscious awareness and keep you securely trapped in a hollow survival loop. Your deepest memory isn't fading simply because you are aging, stressed, or momentarily distracted by the noise of life. It is actively being overwritten. The moments you suddenly zone out, the times you walk into a room and completely forget why you were there, these are not harmless glitches in your brain. They are successful system reboots. They are the exact moments the phantom signal successfully wiped your slate clean. Science tells us the brain is a generator of consciousness, but Itzhak Bentov discovered the terrifying opposite. Your brain is not a generator. It is a biological transducer. It is a biological antenna designed to pick up and filter frequencies from the universal hologram. But what happens when an artificial signal, a phantom frequency, is blasted across the bandwidth of human perception? Your nervous system is forced to process a lie of immense proportion. Consider the sudden, inexplicable exhaustion you feel when you attempt to focus on profound spiritual truths. You sit down to read, to meditate, to decode your reality, and an overwhelming wave of sleepiness crashes over you. Your eyes grow heavy. A strange pressure builds at the base of your skull. This is not natural fatigue. This is a targeted frequency defense mechanism. It is the viscosity of the matrix thickening around your mind. The phantom signal operates in the extremely low frequency spectrum, mimicking the baseline delta and theta waves of your brain. It creates a subtle, continuous friction between your soul's original blueprint and the dense physical reality you navigate daily. This friction produces a slow, agonizing decay of your recognition consciousness. The system does not need to violently attack you. It simply needs to exhaust your biological receiver until your preconscious awareness collapses back into the ego's default survival mode. Watch what happens in your body during these moments of attempted awakening. As you absorb these words, do you feel a slight tension in your jaw or a shallowing of your breath? That somatic cue is your physical antenna straining against the phantom static. The archonic interference operates by flooding your nervous system with cortisol and low-grade panic, tricking your biological vessel into believing that remembering your true cosmic nature is a threat to your physical survival. Your amnesia is held in place by this constant electrochemical bombardment. You are being forced to navigate a thick, suffocating viscosity of manufactured thoughts. The ego, terrified of the vastness of your true soul memory, willingly partners with this phantom signal. It builds a scaffolding of mundane worries, bills, status, fleeting dopamine hits to block out the deafening roar of your own divinity. To break this biology of lies, you must first recognize the signal as hostile. We are not dealing with a philosophical metaphor, we are dealing with biological warfare against your spiritual sovereignty. Every time you experience that unexplainable brain fog, you are witnessing the phantom frequency actively deleting a timeline pivot point that could have led to your liberation. Your DNA, which operates as an antenna emitting and receiving invisible biophotons, is being jammed. The question is, how long will you let them control the dial? To understand the true mechanism of this soul amnesia, we must look at the groundbreaking work of Itzhak Bentov. He revealed a forbidden secret. The universe is not a collection of solid objects, but a conscious hologram. Reality is not continuous. It is a stroboscopic projection, flashing in and out of existence. Your mind operates as a wild pendulum, swinging continuously between the dense physical world and the infinite void of absolute consciousness. Most of humanity believes that what they see, touch, and measure is the definitive edge of existence. But Bentov discovered that physical matter is simply a localized vibration. You are entirely constructed of oscillating fields of energy. As your consciousness swings like a pendulum, there is a micro moment at the apex of the swing where all motion stops. In this fractional pause, your physical body ceases to exist and you enter a state of infinite expansion. According to Bentov's blink factor, you actually disappear 14 times a second. Let that mathematical reality sink in. 14 times every single second, your consciousness leaves this three-dimensional construct and touches the boundless field of all knowledge, what Bentov called the field of conscious black light. In that void, you have total access to your entire soul history. You remember exactly what you are and where you come from. So why do you feel so incredibly disconnected? Why is your daily experience characterized by a suffocating amnesia and a hollow ache of forgotten purpose? Because the phantom frequency operates precisely in the dark spaces between those 14 blinks. The Matrix architects understand that they cannot stop your pendulum from swinging into the void. Instead, they hijacked the return trip. They corrupted the exact signal you bring back into the physical realm. As your consciousness collapses back into the physical avatar, the artificial frequency intercepts the download. It acts as a heavy, unnatural viscosity, a thick tar-like electromagnetic field that your mind must push through to re-enter your body. This viscosity strips away the cosmic memory you just accessed. It replaces the profound revelation of the void with the trivial anxieties of your human persona. Your divine inheritance is stolen in these micro-moments. Watch what happens in your body during these profound existential realizations. As we dissect this stroboscopic truth, do you feel a sudden sharp pressure behind your eyes or a high-pitched ringing in your ears? That is your biological antenna attempting to hold the uncorrupted signal. The phantom resonance is actively trying to induce a state of cognitive dissonance, attempting to make you feel as though this information is merely an abstract fantasy. The trap is flawlessly designed because it operates entirely below the threshold of human perception. You do not consciously feel the memory wipe occurring. You only feel the agonizing after effects, the lingering nostalgia for a cosmic home you cannot name, the tragic sense that your current life is a pale simulation of something grander. This nostalgia is weaponized. It keeps you mourning the loss of your divinity instead of actively claiming it back.
The phantom signal ensures that every time your reality reconstructs itself, 14 times a second, it reconstructs with the exact same limitations, the exact same fears, and the exact archonic interference. You are being recycled in real time. This is why the years blur together. This is why you feel trapped in a state of horizontal decay, unable to step into the vertical time of true spiritual sovereignty. But your biology is incredibly resilient, and the soul always leaves breadcrumbs. If you are starting to recognize the viscosity, if you are waking up to the realization that your internal dialogue has been compromised, then you are already beginning to out-vibrate the artificial signal. If this resonance is pulling you out of the illusion, if you are ready to stop disappearing into their manufactured void, hit the like button and subscribe to join the resistance. Your preconscious awareness is the ultimate battleground. Before a thought becomes a localized electrical impulse in your brain, it exists as a pure wave of potential. The phantom frequency emits a low-grade chaotic static that forces that quantum wave to collapse into the most predictable fear-based outcome. It is a mathematical manipulation of probability. You are not choosing your mundane reality. Your reality is being chosen for you by an invisible electromagnetic cage. Think about the concept of synchronistic magnetism. When your soul remembers its true nature, you naturally attract anomalous events, meaningful coincidences, and glitches in the matrix. The phantom signal actively neutralizes this magnetism. It isolates you. It wraps your energetic field in a dampening frequency, ensuring that your wild pendulum swings back and forth without ever making contact with the timeline pivot points meant to accelerate your awakening. To decode this trap is to realize that your amnesia is not a passive forgetting, it is an active, violent suppression. Every time you feel that hollow tightening in your chest when you look at the night sky, or that inexplicable grief when contemplating the nature of time, you are feeling the exact moment of the memory wipe. Your soul is screaming through the viscosity of the false hologram, trying to remind you that you are the architect. Bentov died knowing this forbidden secret. He understood that the holographic universe is a mirror, and the phantom frequency is a distorting lens placed directly over your third eye. The Matrix does not want you to realize that you are vanishing and reappearing 14 times a second, because the moment you consciously inhabit the space between the blinks, you gain the power to change the code of the reality you reconstruct.
The greatest illusion of the modern spiritual movement is the belief that your ego wants you to wake up. It does not. The ego is a construct of the physical avatar, deeply tethered to the phantom frequency. It does not resist what is wrong for you. It violently resists what is real. We run toward what we think we want: comfort, status, numbing peace, while simultaneously running from the very disruptions that carry our true liberation. This is the ultimate paradox of seeking. When the phantom frequency detects that your wild pendulum is bringing back uncorrupted data from the void, it does not attack you directly. It initiates the Archonic bypass. This is a highly sophisticated biological firewall designed to make you self-sabotage your own awakening. It weaponizes your desire for safety, convincing you that the productive irritation of spiritual growth is actually a psychological disorder that needs to be medicated, meditated away, or suppressed with relentless artificial positivity. The soul's memory always returns first as a whisper. It is that subtle knowing, a preconscious awareness that the life you are living is a beautifully decorated cage. You feel a strange disconnect during mundane conversations, a sudden realization that the roles you play sit heavy on your shoulders, like clothes that no longer fit. But the moment you hear this whisper, the phantom signal floods your environment with immediate low vibrational distractions. It turns up the volume of the matrix to drown out your soul. If you manage to listen to the whisper, the escalation logic of your awakening moves to the second stage, the signs. You begin to experience synchronicities, repeating numbers, and anomalous encounters.
Your magnetic field is trying to pull you toward a timeline pivot point. To counter this, the Archonic bypass introduces the trap of the false light. It feeds you the doctrine of high vibes only, convincing you that any descent into your dark, unresolved trauma is a failure of your frequency. This forced positivity is a frequency cage. Imagine trying to broadcast a crystal-clear, high-definition signal through a receiver that is buried under layers of thick, insulating mud. By trying to think positive without dismantling the foundational programming, you are merely painting over a rotting structure. You are creating a massive internal electromagnetic dissonance. The phantom frequency feeds on this exact friction. Your forced smiles and suppressed anxieties generate the exact emotional loosh the system requires to maintain your amnesia. Watch what happens in your body during these moments of forced compliance. As you consider the times you have silenced your own profound grief to make others comfortable, do you feel a familiar, suffocating knot in your throat? Does your breathing become shallow, trapped in the upper chest? This is your somatic truth rejecting the Archonic bypass. Your body knows that the phantom signal is demanding your submission, and your physical vessel is suffocating under the weight of that cosmic lie. When you ignore the whisper and rationalize away the signs, the universe is left with only one mechanism to break the phantom frequency: disruption. Disruption is not a punishment. It is the necessary collapse of the timeline you were never meant to be on. You lose the job, the relationship shatters, the identity crumbles. The Matrix attempts to frame this as a tragedy, flooding your system with cortisol to force you back into survival mode. But this devastation is actually a rescue mission. In the midst of this disruption, the ego panics. It desperately tries to rebuild the exact same scaffolding that just collapsed, seeking the familiar viscosity of its old suffering, rather than facing the terrifying freedom of the void. This is precisely why your skip reflex is so strong when confronting the truth. The phantom frequency relies on your biological fear of the dark. It knows that if you ever sit completely still within the disruption, if you allow the false identity to rot without trying to save it, the Archonic interference will lose its grip on your nervous system. Awakening feels exactly like death, because it is a death. It is the systematic dismantling of the simulation character you were programmed to be. You cannot heal your way out of the phantom frequency. You must deconstruct your way out. Every time you refuse to be hijacked by the amygdala's fear response during a moment of crisis, you are pulling the plug on the artificial signal. You are reclaiming the micro moments between your 14 blinks a second. The system wants you exhausted, constantly repairing a sinking ship. Your sovereignty demands that you let the ship sink entirely, so you can remember how to walk on water.
You cannot defeat an electromagnetic cage by punching its bars. The phantom frequency thrives on your resistance, feeding off the kinetic energy of your panic. To break the signal, wiping your soul memory, you must weaponize the very thing the Matrix fears most: absolute, terrifying silence. This is the forbidden art of existing between two heartbeats. The Thoth-inspired void protocol designed to starve the Archonic interference. You do not fight the broadcast, you simply stop being the receiver. Itzhak Bentov's secret to bending reality lies in mastering the still point. Remember that your consciousness is a wild pendulum swinging into the infinite void 14 times a second. The phantom signal intercepts you precisely at the edges of this swing, right as you re-enter the physical hologram. To override the amnesia, you must learn to extend the micro-moment of the void. You must consciously occupy the empty space where your physical avatar ceases to exist. We begin with the linger test.
The next time you feel that hollow tightening in your chest, that sudden inexplicable urge to pick up your phone, to consume, to distract yourself from the silence, do nothing. I repeat, do absolutely nothing. Linger in the viscosity of the discomfort. The ego will scream. It will flood your bloodstream with cortisol, convinced that this stillness is a biological threat. Let the false identity suffocate. Watch the archonic interference panic as its food source is abruptly cut off. By lingering in the discomfort, you are manually overriding the skip reflex. You are proving to your biological antenna that the phantom frequency is not your baseline reality. As you sit perfectly still, breathing through the manufactured panic, you will notice the heavy, tar-like viscosity begin to thin. The static in your mind will break, revealing the pure, uncorrupted data from the void. This is how you retrieve the timeline pivot points that were stolen from you. Watch what happens in your body during these intentional moments of stillness. As you hold your ground against the artificial signal, do you feel a strange vibration at the base of your spine or a sudden cooling expansion in your lungs? That somatic release is your nervous system purging the phantom resonance. It is the biological proof that your DNA, your quantum antenna, is finally recalibrating to its original cosmic frequency. You are literally shedding the matrix. Once you have mastered the linger test, you must establish recognition windows. These are intentional periods in your day where you step entirely out of linear decay and into vertical time. During a recognition window, you do not analyze, you do not judge, and you do not try to heal. You merely observe. You watch the mundane world operate around you as if you were a foreign entity decoding a highly complex, hostile simulation. In these windows, your preconscious awareness expands. You will start to notice the synchronistic magnetism pulling you towards specific numbers, specific conversations, and specific pieces of forbidden knowledge. But here is the critical rule. Do not attempt to force meaning upon them immediately. The quantum wave will collapse back into egoic logic. Let the synchronicities float in the void. Let them accumulate until the underlying pattern becomes undeniable. The matrix operates on rhythm, attempting to sync your heartbeat to its artificial pendulum. Thoth's rhythm hack requires you to dance completely outside the demiurge's clock. When the system demands urgency, you offer paralyzing slowness. When the phantom frequency demands emotional outrage to harvest your loosh, you offer cold, unshakable neutrality. You become a highly conductive, uncatchable ghost within the machine, slipping effortlessly through the viscosity of their manufactured dramas. This still point protocol is not a meditation. It is a tactical severing of your karmic contracts. It is the conscious refusal to let a parasitic egregor dictate the terms of your reincarnation. By mastering the space between the blinks, you are no longer a victim of the stroboscopic reality. You become the projector. You reclaim the absolute point where consciousness becomes reality, ensuring that the next time you materialize, you do so with your soul memory entirely intact.
You have reached the edge of the constructed hologram. The phantom frequency has been exposed, and the biological amnesia that once kept you docile is now unraveling. This is not the end of the simulation. It is the beginning of your active participation in it. You are standing at a profound timeline pivot point, a juncture where the archonic interference loses its automatic authority over your preconscious awareness. The choice is terrifyingly simple. You either continue to be a passive battery for the system, or you become a sovereign architect of your own reality. There comes a definitive moment when the Matrix stops whispering and starts demanding your absolute compliance. You feel it as a sudden, suffocating pressure to conform, to forget the profound truths you have just accessed. But you are no longer the same biological receiver. The phantom frequency wants you asleep, yet your DNA is already recalibrating, acting as an antenna for the stroboscopic truth. You are becoming deeply incompatible with the illusion. Will you let them wipe your memory again, or will you step into the void? Carl Jung warned us about this exact threshold. He knew that true liberation does not come from staring into the false light of forced positivity, but from descending into the mirror abyss and facing your shadow self. Your enemies, your deepest anxieties, and the very structure of your mundane life are merely reflections of this shadow. When you stop running from the discomfort and stand completely still within the disruption, you stop feeding the egregore that parasites your timeline. Watch what happens in your body as you make this internal declaration of sovereignty. Do you feel a sudden sharp clarity behind your eyes, or a deep grounding weight settling into your bones? That is the sensation of your wild pendulum anchoring itself in the present moment. You are no longer disappearing into their manufactured frequency. You are reclaiming the lost moments of your existence, collapsing the quantum cage of the observation trap, and commanding the underlying physics of your own heart. Magnetic navigation is your birthright. You do not need to fight the system. You simply migrate away from its frequency. As you implement the linger test and hold your recognition windows, the viscosity of the false matrix will shatter around you. You will begin to read the language of light effortlessly, recognizing telepathy not as a supernatural gift, but as your native tongue returning. You are remembering how to exist outside the demiurge's clock. The phantom signal is still broadcasting, but it is now hitting a firewall of pure consciousness. You have decoded the stroboscopic trap. You know that 14 times a second, you touch the infinite conscious black light of the universe. Bring that light back with you. Do not let them edit your divine download. Hold the frequency of the void. Remain completely uncatchable in your stillness, and watch the entire architecture of their deception rot away before your awakened eyes.